So, as I said in my previous video, I might possibly make a list of my rankings of the Doctor Who Regeneration episodes now that I have seen each one, and yeah, it's time to do so. A couple of these are kind of based on technicalities, and this is only my list, it doesn't have to be anyone else's, and I'd love if anyone does happen to be watching this video. They probably won't, but if anyone is watching and has any particular ranking of their own, I'd love to hear it. Leave it down below and yeah, start a lively discussion about it. So, onto the list. There are 13 places, and the first one is technically a technicality, as the first one on my list is the 2013 mini-episode The Night of the Doctor. This one is technically a technicality because it's not a full episode. It's not kind of an episode where everything builds up towards the regeneration. Paul McGann had been the Doctor in the 1990s, 1996. However, when Christopher Eccleston popped up in 2005, we were wondering what had happened, what had caused the Doctor to regenerate. We later learned that there was another Doctor in between these two, played by John Hurt, which we learned at the end of 2013. The Night of the Doctor fills in the blanks, kind of fills in how Paul McGann regenerated into John Hurt's Doctor. Which is, yeah, it's good to see. It's quite a short episode, showing the Doctor coming to grips with things and realising that there's not really much use for a Doctor in the Time War. It's quite a short episode, and you can probably find it on YouTube on either the BBC or the Doctor Who YouTube channels. Go and take a look at it, it's pretty good. But with the rest of them, full episodes. First one on the list, number 12, Time in the Rani, i.e. from Colin Baker through to Sylvester McCoy. This one I also consider a technicality, given that this is much more a first episode, in terms of the Doctor, first episode for Sylvester McCoy, than it is a regeneration episode for Colin Baker. There were a lot of, apparently, political things going on behind the scenes, and eventually it was decided that when they brought Doctor Who back again with Time in the Rani, they decided not to bring Colin Baker back, and instead dressed up Sylvester McCoy in a blonde wig, which so Colin Baker didn't even get to come back for his regeneration. So it's more a first episode than it is a regeneration episode, but it's still pretty good. My number 11 goes to The War Games. From Patrick Troughton to John Pertwee. This one, I admit, is actually pretty good. I watched it through and I grew to like it. I mean, even in black and white, it still is quintessential Doctor Who. It does well. The only reason why it's so low on my particular list is because most of the other regeneration episodes are either kind of one episode, i.e. with New Who, or in terms of Classic Who, it ranges from about 4 to 6 episodes, which, yeah, felt manageable. The War Games is 10 episodes, which, for some Doctor Who fans, that might not be so bad. Personally, I felt there were some areas in this where it kind of dragged on more than it kind of needed to. I felt they were kind of drawing it out, which, okay, for a regeneration episode, maybe you want to draw it out, but I don't know. I mean, if you like it, fair enough, but the War Games lands at number 11 for me. I mean, it's good, just maybe it went out a little longer than it had to. My number 10, 1996's Doctor Who The Movie. From Sylvester McCoy to Paul McGann. I previously stated about this entry that if someone asked me what Doctor Who was like in the 90s, that would probably be right on trend. Once again, like Time in the Rani, it's more a kind of first episode for Paul McGann than it's a regeneration episode for Sylvester McCoy. But still, looking back at it, it's still pretty good. For the 1990s, it still holds up pretty well. Number 9 is the first of the New Who episodes, The Time of the Doctor. The Time of the Doctor, I admit, is kind of my least favourite of the New Who regenerations, but it's still pretty good. I mean, I admit one thing that looking back on it, maybe I didn't like so much about kind of Matt Smith and David Tennant's kind of regenerations, is prophecy regenerations. We know that the actor is leaving, and so for their kind of final series or their final year on the show, they set up a kind of prophecy. A prophecy about the way that the Doctor will die, he will knock 4 times, or Trenzalore. Which, okay, fair enough. If it's their last year, you want them to go out on a fairly high. But I just kind of, yeah, I don't know about it. I don't know about the plot thread, but the episode itself, yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, it shows the Doctor on Trenzalore, Final Last Stand, it even incorporates several of the big baddies, such as the Daleks, Cybermen, Sontarans, and so forth. It actually does pretty well. Anyway, moving up one spot is Planet of the Spiders, from John Pertwee to Tom Baker. The thing that as I said, I genuinely liked this episode. When I sat down to watch it, I actually still thought it was pretty good. The reason why it's kind of in the middle of my list, it does have some plot elements that are better than others. The thing that drags it down slightly is it was held back by the technology of the time, the 70s and 80s. When you see kind of Tom Baker, not Tom Baker, John Pertwee kind of talking to spiders, especially the big queen spider, you can clearly see the computer-generated line around him separating him from the scene. It's a minor thing, but yeah, there's another entry that's kind of a little further up the list that also suffered from this problem. But yeah, kind of on the whole of it, the story is pretty good. Also, there's a distinct divide in the difference of cameras between the scenes that were shot on sets and the ones that were outside. So, as I said, there is a little bit of thing of technology about the times. But anyway, moving upwards, number 7, The Parting of the Ways, from Christopher Eccleston to David Tennant. With Christopher Eccleston, since he only stayed 1 year, they didn't really have a time set up a prophecy for him. And kind of his final episode where he kind of does what he does in order to save his companion, yeah. His Regeneration episode worked out fairly well, going up against one of the big bads of the show, the Daleks, kind of in one of the biggest ways possible, and yeah, he does fairly well with it. My number 6, Logopolis, the most recent addition to my Doctor Who Regeneration collection. Logopolis, like Planet of the Spiders, does fairly well, but is kind of held back slightly because of the technology of the time. Once again, there's a clear divide between set scenes and outdoor scenes, and as I said in my review of it, there is a small part towards the end where it's kind of the technology kind of clearly limits it. But yeah, once again, it's the most popular Doctor, and I feel this was a good way for him to go out. Number 5, technically another technicality, The Day of the Doctor, the Regeneration episode for John Hurt into Christopher Eccleston. They didn't manage to get Christopher Eccleston back for the Regeneration scene, but I feel since we were only introduced to John Hurt's Doctor a few months prior, the episode they had planned out for him, it was very good. It was a great way to celebrate the 50th anniversary. And even just to see the start of his Regeneration sequence right at the end of the episode, he does very well with it. Sorry about this, I've still got a cold. Anyway, my number 4, 2017's Twice Upon a Time. Multi-Doctor episodes can be fairly tricky, like with The Day of the Doctor. That one required pretty much months of planning, and you know what? This one, Twice Upon a Time, I feel they did it well. I mean, as I said before, multi-Doctor stories can be a bit hit or miss. I mean, you've got good ones like, like I said, The Day of the Doctor. You've also got the 3 Doctors, and I heard that the 2 Doctors did quite well as well, but then I've also heard people criticise the 5 Doctors. So, yeah. This one, kind of having it down to 2 Doctors between number 12, Peter Capaldi, and number 1, this time played by David Bradley, I feel they did fairly well with it. And it's a good way for Peter Capaldi to head out the series. My number 3 goes to The End of Time. When I posted my list of my Regeneration episode ranking on social media, when other people gave it, I was surprised that they didn't like The End of Time. Some people placed it very low. Some people even placed it at the bottom of their list, and I don't quite understand why. I felt it was a spectacular way for David Tennant to go out as the Doctor, facing down another one of his most iconic enemies, the Master, in one of his most devious plans yet. I mean, I personally love it. I don't see why everyone drags this one down. But anyway, people did, but it's at my number 3. My number 2 goes to the first Regeneration scene, or the first Regeneration episode, The 10th Planet. It's hard to beat the classics. I mean, This first one, which had William Hartnell, kind of changing into Patrick Troughton, yeah, he once again faces down a monster that would become one of his most iconic enemies, the Cybermen. And the way he goes out, yeah, for for the way that they ultimately had to do it, due to Hartnell's age and his kind of medical state, they ultimately decided to recast him. But going for his final go round, this was a good one, yeah. But my number one, this one surprised me, as it's apparently the most popular Doctor Who episode in the Guinness Book of Records. But I didn't necessarily believe it. I don't know if I'd class it as the best of all of Doctor Who, but okay, for the best of the regeneration sequence, it's come out on top, and that's The Caves of Androzani. From Peter Davison to Colin Baker. This one is just a great story. I mean, there's no particular big monster, and it again mostly focuses on the kind of politics of Androzani Major. But yeah, I mean, the way that the Doctor ultimately dies is kind of fairly simple, kind of compared to some of his other regenerations, where it's going to be a big thing. And just the way he ultimately goes out, it's simple, but it works. And that's why ultimately, Caves of Androzani is my number one. Number one regeneration episode. Well, there you go. The regenerations episode marked 13 through to 1. Anyway, until next time, hope I get better this cold. Until then, see ya.